Hi, everybody, and I'm your host today, Luci Rainey, and welcome everyone to Movers and Shakers. Really exciting episode today. CTV and media networks are all the buzz in marketing right now. And today we're focusing on both topics and how you can leverage these tools to enhance your marketing strategy, execution, and efficiencies. Three of my favorite topics in marketing that really can help you win and drive new revenue. As you know, V12, a Porch company, is our terrific sponsor of Movers and Shakers, and V12 is launching a strategic partnership with Strategus, a pioneer in CTV strategy. And today our guests are Michelle Taves and Charlie Thomas. Welcome, Michelle and Charlie, today.
Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you.
Michelle is the general manager at V12 and Charlie, the BD director at Strategus. Welcome, you two. Let's talk CTV first. Charlie, so much going on in CTV. It's a rapidly evolving media channel. I love CTV and what it's doing for marketing teams, media plans, businesses, because now small and medium-sized businesses have the flexibility and affordability to leverage TV media. Tell us about Strategus and this exciting new partnership you have with V12.
Yeah, thank you, Lucy. You just hit on a really important theme that I think will come up a lot during our discussion here, which is the local nature of CTV. That if the evolution of digital media, is always moves towards being localized, personalized, and results driven. And the one medium that's been left out of that up till now has been television. And so the key thing is that as CTV is still in its early stage, but the combination with retail media networks is really going to accelerate the progress over the next few years, which is why everyone's projecting such big numbers for both. But as the use of CTV matures, it's going to become more and more localized and personalized and results driven, which is great for small businesses, as you said. And we at Strategus are already doing a lot in that space already. Those are our main customers, which puts us at the forefront of CTV evolution.
So Strategus, a pioneer in CTV and leveraging really targeted CTV campaigns. Tell us about Strategus.
Sure. So our big claim to fame is we ran the first programmatic CTV campaign ever, which surprises a lot of people. You'd think it would have been one of the bigger agencies or somebody, but it actually was us. We did it in 2015, and that's important because it's for almost 8 years we've been developing a CTV ecosystem. So we don't have any proprietary technology. What we have is this ecosystem built around CTV. So think of it almost like a coral reef that just keeps regenerating itself. And what we do is swap out the best performing parts. Sometimes something we'll be using one part and another part will be better, and we'll swap it out. So we're always at the forefront of creating value for advertisers through CTV. As mentioned there, and it's on the slide, we're really good at localized, personalized, results-driven executions and provide a full managed service. So, we do the strategy and planning, we create the audiences, we kick off the campaigns, we optimize daily, quite often, but certainly weekly. We provide very accurate reporting on a number of fronts. Each dashboard is customized for each campaign, as is the audience for each campaign. And then at the end, we provide insights and recommendations, which is, this happens weekly, which is really key because as you'll see in the case study we talk about at the end, we optimize performance. Anything you measure, you can improve. So we're measuring all the KPIs and improving them as we go.
That's terrific. Now, again, there's a lot of topic about this, but what is the difference between CTV, OTT, and linear? There's a lot of confusion here, and sometimes it gets confusing. Talk to us a little bit about
it's understandable because with a lot of these, the whole game is evolution, right? It's all about digital evolution happens so fast. So a lot of the times when things are initially named, the names don't apply after a few years. But the real basic definitions are linear is broadcast television and cable. So when people talk about linear numbers, they're usually combining those two. CTV, quite literally, if you take the literal definition of it, it's your smart television and the streaming content that runs across it. So all those logos down there on the right would be the streaming content. But and OTT is really not used that as much anymore. It used to refer to the devices other than the smart TV. But now when you see CTV numbers and research, like with eMarketer or Business Insider puts out research for CTV, they now include, basically it's streaming across all screens. And that's how we look at it at Strategus, as we'll discuss later in our conversation.
That's great. Thanks for clearing that up. I'm sure some people have questions about that. I know, coming from the cable industry, we were forever working on addressable advertising and being able to target singularly. And now CTV has done it so easily, something the cable industry spent years and years and years working on, and it's just evolving so quickly. Streaming is definitely gaining ground. The recent ComScore measurement does say it might be starting to level off, but linear viewing is still 56% of viewing if you look on the next slide there, but oh so expensive. And linear often has to lock you in. You got to do your upfronts at the beginning of the year. And, when you're if for these big brands who have hundreds of millions of dollars of TV advertising they're investing versus small brands who really might be more in the tens of millions, linear can be oh so expensive. And when you have your president breathing down your neck on cost per lead and cost per sale, it's hard to measure. It's hard to really say what return am I getting. But CTV introduces us into a different realm with investment and return. Tell us about the advantages of CTV.
Sure. Well, to start with, we at Strategus are big fans of finding strategic certainty. So what are the trends that are guaranteed to happen? And those usually find those through technology and demographics, neither of which go backwards. So that 34% number there on the upper right is guaranteed to grow. And that's partly because pretty much any linear household now, not 100%, but close to 100%, also have streaming. But the reverse is not true. As people are cutting cords, they don't have linear. So just that math alone is and then you have streaming comes through multiple devices, is the other point that we talked about earlier. But the other piece is demographics, that when you look at, Gen Z and the millennials are the two largest generations in history. And if you look at their streaming numbers, they're very, very high. And the linear numbers, as you'd expect, tend to be older audiences. So with all that streaming number is guaranteed to grow. So as you're planning your strategy for the future, you have to factor that in. And the same is true for retail media networks, which I know we're going to get into in a little bit. And now I forgot the second half of your question.
That's okay. We can move on. You're doing great. Great answer. If you go to the next slide, I love the fact that CTV allows precise targeting, good mix integration that takes data signals. So I can really see the benefit of this partnership. Michelle, we haven't heard from you yet. Tell us about why you're excited about this partnership.
Sure, happy to. So it was funny because me and Charlie had the opportunity to actually meet at a trade show, and it was just by happenstance that we happened to have sat next to each other and started talking about our different businesses and what we do as you do in those networking opportunities. What got us really excited about working with Strategus is a couple of things. First of all, they have a managed service approach to CTV, which we just find really super helpful for a lot of our customers, right? You're not putting it in a black box and just letting it go and do its thing, right? You're actually watching it, making sure that it's working. There's a full dashboard and measurement capability associated, with Strategus offers. And then it's all about that individual audience and the ability to target at a small level and also at a national level. And our customers at V12 rank across the board. And so we wanted to be able to have a partner that would hook into all the other marketing capabilities that we already have and be able to supply it across all of our customers. And a lot of times when people think of TV, they think of like the Super Bowl ad, right? Which you need like this bulk $1 million to even get started. And Strategus really gave us the opportunity to partner with someone who can offer it across the board. And we're all about measurement and proving that the marketing is working and adding the value to the customer, because if we can't do that, it's not worth it, right? And Strategus, they're just the perfect partner to be able to help us do that.
Yeah, Michelle, you made a really good second point, which is that the audience targeting is so important and such a differentiator. And again, back to strategic certainty, as an industry and in our partnership, we'll only get better at it.
Yeah.
But the other piece is the measurement piece. That anything I said this before, anything you measure, you can improve. And it's that combination of the better targeted audiences and the measurement that it becomes a loop of continuous improvement.
Yep. Yeah, I think it almost changes the story a little, Luci, right? Because a lot of people in the past has always thought of linear TV as branding, right? And with this, you can get farther than just branding, right? Because you can measure it, you can understand. Obviously, branding is still highly important, but you can also get into engagement, interest, right? Really understanding if it provided a direct correlation and an interaction to a sale for that brand. Which is just really exciting, and I think a complete differentiated approach compared to some of the other companies that we've talked to, kind of in the industry. So we're really excited about it.
I went to a direct-to-consumer conference last week in Austin, which is fascinating because these are the brands that start. Let's think Warby Parker, Bonobos. And there's hundreds of them, if not thousands. And they're so I'm fascinated by this category because they started with digital. And they start at the bottom of the funnel and they sell online. This is another good example of a name that doesn't really apply anymore because they go direct to consumer. But then as they mature, they move into retail channels, either selling through regular retailers or even setting up their own stores. But at the conference, literally 100% of them, and one of the main themes was as they mature, they now need to build their brand. And the medium they naturally go to is connected television. Because that's how they think, because they can put an ad at the top, and we'll get into this later. They can put an ad at the top of the funnel for branding through CTV, but then also measure the impact all the way down the funnel, which it's a fascinating category.
Yeah, I agree. The ability to precisely target now with TV is just becoming fascinated. And I think we were all fascinated when digital started to be able to do it more and more effectively with programmatic. And now to be able to take that same formula and leverage it in TV, it's a new game. Again, I keep bringing up these small and medium-sized companies who maybe, couldn't afford to do this before, and they didn't have the targeting capabilities, and they couldn't really afford to do more of the larger, wider upper funnel marketing, and a lot more, I don't want to say accountability. I mean, I worked for large and small companies both, and definitely when your budget's tighter, they want to understand where the dollars are going, not the tens of thousands or the hundreds of thousands of dollars, but the dollars. And so that gets tough in linear TV when you're trying to really document that payback. And so I love what the two of you are doing in your partnership together. Go on to the next slide. Michelle, tell us about the power of the Porch data and your new capabilities with Strategus and why this is so different and important.
Yeah, absolutely. So because we are Porch, we have access to a bunch of consumers that are within the move journey from beginning of their move journey all the way past to the post mover. And because of all of that data is not out there in the ecosystem, right? And so you cannot access that data through any other means than what we're building within, the retail media network. We're actually going to call it, it's going to be our Porch Media Network. The first year or two, we're rolling out complete managed services, which that's another reason why Strategus was a key important person for us to pick, because it matches our managed service and our consulting approach to everything that we do. And as we're rolling this out, we really want to be able to have the ability to market across multiple channels, right? Multiple capabilities, to be able to get the most eyeballs and impressions we possibly can through that move journey. Because so many times, the brand that is the first person to contact that consumer is who they're going to go with, right, for their decision, because they're just so busy, right, doing so many other things within that move event. And so since we're part of Porch, we have data that is different than real estate data. We have real estate data, Indeed data, New Connect data, all of that is still available through us. However, we also have availability to first party data that is just completely unique and an absolute differentiator when we talk to the market. And we have things like the ability to decide if somebody's a long distance mover versus short versus a local mover. We also have the ability to say where somebody is moving to before they ever complete that move journey. We also have the ability to connect on like home inspection attributes that somebody would get through a home inspection report, right? And all of this data is just completely unique. So when me and Charlie were talking, right, to find out that one of their most successful verticals through their CTV platform was home, when you think about it, it just made perfect sense, for us to partner together and to be able to build upon our strategy on where we're going with Strategus because of all of their experience that they already have within that network.
Hey, Luci, if I could just tag on to something Michelle said, just to emphasize it. The first party data that Michelle was just talking about is an absolute game changer. And it's worth at this point, I think, maybe talking just a bit about retail media networks as a whole. That there's a really great article that eMarketer put out that I for all the watchers and listeners, I recommend you read it. And what they do, they're calling retail media networks the third wave of digital advertising. So they're saying the first was search, the second was social, and the third is retail media networks. And that they said the third is going to be bigger than the other two, maybe bigger than the other two combined. And why it's so important is this first party data that Michelle's talking about. As cookies are going away, we need a newer and better way to do the promise of digital media, which is creating the kind of audiences we just talked about, measuring them, and then getting attribution that helps improve performance. And with the first party data, all three of those increased dramatically. And it's estimated that this number blew my mind, and I've seen it in a few different places. It's estimated that in 2 years, the spending on retail media networks is going to surpass $60 billion. Now, to put that in perspective, this in the same time period, by the same people who are doing the measurement, linear TV is going to be $67 billion. So the only way that currently most retail media networks do search, they do social, and they do display. But the only way you're going to get to $60 billion is if you're doing television. And right now there's just three, there's hundreds of retail media networks popping up. Only three are doing connected television with any kind of scale and sophistication. One is Amazon. And Thursday night football is the future of advertising. It's NFL content on top of a retail media network, and the ads are being targeted differently, and the sales are being registered at Amazon and Whole Foods to provide closed loop reporting. So you have Amazon, you have Walmart, who has a partnership with the Trade Desk, and you have Kroger, and the fourth is going to be Porch. That's I think that's such a cool thing that the Porch Media Network is going to be the fourth one that has advanced CTV capabilities because of our partnership.
Yep, that's a pretty good crowd to get to be included in for sure. So that's exciting.
Yeah, and with a unique data set, powering it that those other three, even those huge big brand names, don't
have it. No,
yeah.
They've got their own strengths, but for the vertical markets that that Porch and B12 have, nobody else has it.
Yeah. Yep. And I wanted to tag up on that a minute, just because a lot of times when people think of Porch, right, they think of that pre-mover, that mover time frame. Within our media network, it actually goes farther, right, than just the mover. We go from mover all the way to an entire homeowner's spine, right, of being able to understand once they moved into that home, there are still tons of marketing opportunity there. And just understanding, the consumers that live in the home, the house of the home, the size of the home, the property data, the contact data, and being able to do, one-to-one email campaigning to them, and being able to add in direct mail, right? That's another thing that's a really big part of our media network that's different. We have all of the digital execution available, right? Display, paid social, video, all that kind of stuff is still available. But we also have the ability to go all the way back to direct mail with the add-ons of CTV. I mean, we have every single channel, completely included within what we're doing. And then we could take it all the way back down to that measurement part. And when I talk to so many brands, it's so funny how excited they get about measurement, right? Because just being able to prove that it worked and take someone all the way through the funnel, almost like this on the slide, it talks about Melissa, right? We have the ability to track Melissa through all of the different channels, through all that we know about her, and take it all the way through to, did she buy? Right? And if she bought, when, and how much did she spend, and really being able to do true LTV to CAC, and being able to really understand the benefit that the brand is getting, right? Because that's what it comes down to. They have to see the benefit and buy into the benefit that they're getting from all that we're doing for them. So that's where the whole closed loop optimization comes in, and then we toggle back and forth because of all of our real-time and near real-time capabilities. So I'm obviously a huge believer in it, and I think Charlie is too. So
yeah, remember in the beginning I mentioned good strategy, great execution, and that drives terrific efficiencies. It's really somewhat of a marketer's dream. And I think when you're firing on all three cylinders, that's when especially you found a good partner, and it can just really benefit so many areas of your business. And so thanks for taking us through really how your Porch mover and homeowner spine is different and unique, and how as you create that Porch ID, that's going to drive the Porch Media Network, which now has very strategic CTV capabilities, that very few can offer. I mean, wow, what an amazing partnership, you guys. Really, really amazing. We're going to skip on. Go ahead forward two if you can on the slides. And again, here, there's an illustration of insights, and we know the household here you have really deep first-party data on the household. We're going to go on past this slide to talk about what the campaign will look like with you two in partnership. Again, it's just really an amazing offering. And tell us about what a campaign looks like. Charlie, we'll start with you.
Yeah, just one point on the last slide. Strategus has a lot of consumer data, lifestyle data and such. So we're going to be combining that with the Porch data. So that's important to know that we're going to get we'll get more than just the moving view of the consumer and creating audiences. But I think this might be the most important slide that or topic that we talk about, because this shows what the user experience is going to be like. And this is highly progressive. This is state of the art use of CTV. And quite honestly, most agencies and clients are not doing this, including the big agencies. What's happening is people are settling for the reach extension that they get from connected television, which would be a TV mindset, but if you have a digital mindset, you do this. And what this is you, as people get a CTV ad, we can then deterministically, which means following the same person in the same household, we then serve them other forms of digital advertising. So they get display ads, they get online video ads, they get ads on their phones, they can get online audio ads, and those are measurable. The CTV ad is not, because you can't click on it. They have QR codes and things, so they are building. Eventually there'll be some clickability or more interaction in it. But right now, this is state of the market, and it's a new reach and frequency model. It's a new way to think about reach and frequency. We reach them with the CTV ads, and then we maximize the frequency of more CTV ads, but also these additional digital advertising. And it's the additional digital ads that drive them down the funnel. So we found the vast majority of our campaigns look like this, including the case study we're going to look at shortly. And we get exponentially better results. So when you market this way, which is what we're going to be doing with the Porch Media Network, you're going to get exponentially better results and a lot more measurement than you would just running a CTV ad for reach only. And it's worth noting this additional media, particularly display, is a lot less expensive than television. So it brings the overall cost of a campaign, the aggregate CPM, it brings it way down. So it's not only the most effective way to use CTV, it's also the most efficient.
Michelle, anything to add?
Yeah, I was going to say, and then we take that and we add in things like email acquisition to that same audience, or we add in direct mail to that same audience, right? And so we take all of the capabilities and the audience execution that Strategus has and combined it, with what V12 also offers. And that's where we get really across full channel, digital, and offline and online. And then take it all the way down to sales conversion analysis, which is really just kind of the period at the end of the sentence.
Yeah, I love, the fact that you're adding the Strategus capabilities, because I think one of the big frustrations with CTV is all the fragmentation and how you have to execute it in such a fragmented manner. And Strategus kind of takes that off the table, which is terrific. I'm going to pause here and let our listeners and viewers know that in a second we're going to ask for questions. So if you want to submit any questions at this time, this is a good time to go do it. We still have a little bit more to do, and I think something very exciting we're about to share. Charlie, I love real examples. When you're doing work and the examples are real. It's not a hypothetical business case. It's not if you do it, here's what it could look like, but I love real examples. And if we go to the next slide, you will see that Strategus had the opportunity, again, to work with a home services company. And Charlie, this real life example that involved a home services company, tell us what they were trying to solve and how this technology helped them.
Sure. Thank you, Lucy. Yeah, I love this story. And I love it because of the numbers that you're seeing. But it wasn't a big company. Back to what you're talking. I mean, when I talk to big brands at big agencies, I use this case study, and that if you've got a big consumer packaged good brand that markets nationally, you can make your campaign look like this. So the home services company we're talking about, they're regional. And their problem was that linear TV and radio, which had been their main media that they were using, weren't getting them the results that they used to get. And I think it gets back to the earlier slide about the audiences are migrating. And so they had a tactical problem, which was the performance, but then they also had a strategic problem, which is our usual sources of marketing are declining. So, that's a longer term problem that we got to solve for. So they went into CTV somewhat apprehensively. And, the CPMs are higher for, they go down if you do what we did with them. But if you just take the CPMs on CTV and compare them to linear, they're usually higher because they have the more targeting you add, the higher the CPMs go up. But they came in anyway. They gave it so we're going to test it, see how it goes. And what you're looking at are the results they got after 3 months. They got it far exceeded their expectations, but even more important, it far exceeded what they were getting from linear and from radio. So they got a 58% increase in total attributions means leads. So, and the key phrase there is month over month, because this gets back to the way Strategus works, is we were optimizing this every week. At the beginning, it was every day. They had a huge increase in visits to their leads and appointments, big in confirmation and percentage increases, and then the overall numbers were really satisfying and productive for them. So they're still running. It's always the best renewal is always the best vote of confidence. And this is not. This is a good performer, but this is quite often what we see with our campaigns.
I like it. Those are some impressive numbers. I know if I were the marketing lead and you were doing this readout to me, I would have been really, really excited about this.
Part of what made them particularly excited and happy is that we kept getting better.
Yeah.
And you kind of said this earlier, but anything you can do with a display ad, you can now do with a television ad. And that's why that previous slide is so important. We were able to improve, and they were a great client too. We were able to work together and improve very steadily.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. I think we've heard a lot of good information today. Great explanation, I think, for our audience today about the differences between CTV, OTT, and linear. Love that you explained that really CTV and OTT are coming together now, and it's really them, versus linear overall. The fact that the right data partner and services partner like Porch with Strategus really is the winning combination, that now the new Porch Media Network will be one of the few managed service providers to really be able to service customers with this full service capability, adding CTV, all great news. We talked very high level today, Charlie and Michelle, so I'm really thrilled to tell our audience today that we are going to be continuing the conversation on a deeper level the same time next week as we dive more into the partnership and your capabilities. So folks can come back next week too and ask questions as we dive deeper. But speaking of questions, Larissa, you are our gatherer of questions from the audience, and do we have any today?
I do. Quickly, just to let everybody know, we do have the URL for next week's session in the chat, so you can sign up there. Reach out to me tomorrow when you get the recording, or I'm sure you will get an email from me shortly with the offer to sign up for next week's session. So the first question is, would you suggest only doing either OTT or CTV rather than traditional cable TV?
I'll take that one. It depends on the situation. I would say yes. But I might couch it a bit to say that you definitely should be doing CTV and streaming, and the other thing you should definitely be doing is these retail media networks, Porch. I mean, the future of advertising is the combination of CTV and retail media networks. I mean, there's obviously more to it than just those two, but those are the two main forces that are going to shape the future of advertising. As I mentioned, it's already it's happening so fast. Everybody's rushing into both spaces. So I think it's not a question of if, but when. And I would suggest that you start using streaming and combining it with first-party data like we're doing here, to the extent that you could do that, and the sooner you do it, the better off your company will be.
Yep. How I always answer questions like that too is, don't forget to test, and then let the test result drive your decision going forward. We are often in marketing in a test and learn environment, right? And there are many, many opinions that circulate around the industry, right? But those opinions could be different depending on the brand, depending on what you're trying to do and your strategy. So we always recommend a test. Obviously, we believe in CTV and what we're doing, but we would have to test it across your brand, and then we would be able to test the lift upon CTV to linear, CTV without linear, right? You're going to want to set up control groups and just make sure that you test it really well to decide which one is going to provide the biggest benefit. One of the interesting key points, I think, for next year and the next couple of years that me and Charlie have been talking about is we will have election years coming up, right? And think of how that's going to drive up the linear TV ad, right? And you're going to be competing against a lot of people for a lot less space. And so now is the time to try and reach out to CTV, get some testing, and see if you can get those additional eyeballs, for your brand.
Yeah, and I love that, again, the new partnership and the Porch Media Network make it easy. And I will say, I hope I can say this, Michelle, affordable.
Yeah, you can say that.
And affordable, to test, to try this. And so I really encourage, and you're right, Michelle, test and learn, test and learn, test and learn. Really believe in that. Larissa, any other questions today?
Yes, we do. Next question is, since CTV is not trackable, how do you justify view-through attribution data when it's likely combining all website traffic in general from other media?
Can you say that again, please?
Yeah. Yep. Happy to. Since CTV is not trackable, how do you justify view-through attribution data when it's likely combining all website traffic in general from other media?
I would need help answering that question. That's more technical. That exceeds my technical ability.
Yeah, that's a complicated question. One of the things I could tell you that we do at V12, that's a great question, and we can get back to whoever asked that specifically. But one of the things we did to try and help tracking across all different kinds of channels is we have something that we refer to as the sales dashboard. And what the sales dashboard allows us to do is to literally take someone's customer data, right, and compare it to the audience that was set out in the campaign, because we have first-party data, right? So we have the ability to literally compare new customers coming in the funnel versus, the campaign, and whether that person was in the campaign and then what channel that person was in. And so it's not always a complete, hey, for sure because they watched this ad, they bought this. But if they watched the ad, you somehow influenced their purchase decision at some point. And then you can also track them through all the different channels that we executed that campaign with. And when you have that kind of capability, no matter what channel it is, whether it's display, whether it's CTV, whether it's paid social, right, you can't argue against a one-for-one, right, ability to say, hey, this person was not your customer yesterday, and they are your customer this week because we ran this campaign. So that's the way we handle that within our doors. And we have the ability to integrate everything that Strategus does into that sales dashboard for the first-party measurement.
Perfect, thank you.
know who, Larissa, if we know who asked that question, I can get them a more knowledgeable answer. I was about to start answering, but I had the old expression running with scissors. I was like, I'm going to get about halfway through this explanation and not be able to finish it. So
Yeah, no.
we'll get him a him or her a thoughtful response.
All right, I think we have time for one more, Larissa.
Sure. So can you talk a little bit more about your mover audiences? And then if someone is about to move and does this get updated quickly in the Ctv platform so I can target them in a timely manner?
Yep, I'll be happy to. I'll take that one. So our mover audiences are, they're blended audiences about someone that's within the mover journey. And so it starts at a pre-mover, right? We know that somebody either has their house listed for sale, or they have done a home inspection, or they've applied for a mortgage. Because we have a lot of first-party data, right, we have additional ways of being able to tag a pre-mover. And then we actually tag that person all the way through the move journey. So we know when they're just beginning, we know when they're closer. So maybe they've sold their house, right? Their house is now under contract. We have all this other data that gives us a bunch of trigger information about that move cycle throughout the process, all the way through to they're brand new in a brand new house. And then that offers a whole bunch of other targeting and marketing, abilities within that stream too. So we have a near real-time, update process. We get data in every single day. We actually run it through an entire refresh process every week, and we can send data on over to Strategus, pretty large audiences for a campaign, right? We can send that over on a weekly basis. We could send it over on a daily basis for some of our customers who really want that, but you're obviously not going to do a CTV campaign, that's probably not going to work for certain channels, but weekly would work really great.
Yeah. I mean, I'm of the mindset too, Michelle, that if you can see movers, or predict movers 3 to 5 weeks in advance, and you also know their move to address and their move from address, you can really be creating some powerful campaigns. And, I keep beating this drum, across movers and shakers, but that really helps you with retention. And retention is a lot less expensive to manage in a business than new acquisition. And so when you're looking at retention costs versus CAC costs, again, these predictors are very, very potent in helping you with retention, and especially to enact retention campaigns across CTV is really new and interesting. I love it. All right. I think that brings us to the end of today's episode of Movers and Shakers. Remember, next week, we're going to have our coffee break again with Charlie and Michelle, same time. And Charlie and Michelle, thank you so much for such
You're
a
welcome.
wonderful, fresh, engaging conversation. And we look forward to seeing you next time, you in the audience on Movers and Shakers. Thanks so much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.